The seashore is the first thing many of us see when we visit the Gulf. We may run down the sandy beach to go swimming, go fishing, or just watch as the waves come rolling in. Sandy beaches make up over 98% of the Texas shoreline. Texas beaches vary from being part of the mainland to creating deltas and peninsulas to forming our vast barrier islands. Texas has the most extensive barrier islands in the Gulf, including Padre Island, which is the longest barrier island in the world. It's 130 miles long and protects nearly a third of the Texas coast. Beaches in the western Gulf of Mexico, which is where Texas is located, are considered to be moderate to high energy beaches, where there are large waves most of the year. The eastern Gulf is a low energy area, and this means that it has smaller waves on average. This is why the Gulf Coast of Texas is a better place for surfing and wind sports, such as windsurfing and kiteboarding, than the Gulf Coast of Florida. Just off the beach, especially in the moderate to high wave energy areas, there are usually one or more sandbars or troughs, getting progressively deeper as you go offshore. That's why, as you wade into the Gulf from a Texas beach, it quickly gets a little deep. But if you keep going out, it gets shallow again. But then the further you go, it gets deep again, and then a little bit shallower until, well, it just gets deep. Waves. Waves are usually formed when water is pushed by winds. In other words, wind energy creates waves. Waves can also be formed by energy from earth movements, such as an underwater earthquake. Now, the water itself doesn't really flow along with the wave, but instead it moves in a rolling fashion as the energy passes through it. This is similar to when you send a wave down a rope held between two people. The rope just moves in place. It actually doesn't travel in the direction of the wave. A wave can travel for thousands of miles, but when it nears shallow water, such as a shore, the bottom of the rolling motion begins to touch bottom. The lower part of the wave slows a bit, while the upper part keeps going. At this point, the faster water on top begins to tip over, giving rise to the curl on large waves as they come to shore. This is why we say waves crash on the beach. Aquatic life is generally abundant where the waves crash onto the shore. This life can sometimes not easily be seen. Most species here live by burrowing in the shifting sands of the bottom. Beach clams, marine worms, and sand dollars are common in this surf zone. This is where the waves wash back and forth along the beach. We also call this the Swash Zone. The beach slopes steeply up to a flat area that generally stays dry. This dry area is called the backshore, and it's where people usually walk along the beach and lay on beach towels. It sometimes gets wet, but most of the time it stays dry. This is also part of the beach where you can find aquatic species such as sand crabs and occasionally nesting sea turtles. It's also a place that can often be full of trash, seaweed, or even jellyfish. Beachgoers in Texas often remember their encounters with seaweed, jellyfish, and trash found on the beach. Believe it or not, all three are frequent features of Gulf Coast beaches for really the same reason. All are carried along by currents and winds that push them onto Texas beaches. Massive currents swirl about in the giant basin that is the Gulf of Mexico. It's like when you stir liquid contents in a big bowl of water. Water in the Gulf moves in a definite direction. This water movement is called a current, and it carries along with it whatever floats in the water. Currents in the Gulf move toward Texas, both from the north and south. The currents combine with winds that also blow toward Texas. This helps push animal passengers as well as any floating trash or seaweed onto our beaches. There are times that Texas beaches may contain large amounts of sargassum. This is a brown seaweed. While it may look yucky, this seaweed actually helps build up the beach by acting to hold sand in place. Jellyfish are another passenger in the current's continuous journey because they are free-floating animals. While some species of jellyfish can give swimmers an unpleasant sting, trash gives everyone an unpleasant experience. Jellyfish and seaweed are a natural part of the Gulf ecosystem, while the trash isn't. Where does this trash come from? Well, it comes from all over the Gulf, from other states, from Mexico, from storm sewers that empty into the Gulf, and from the rivers that drain into the Gulf, such as the Mississippi River. It comes from ships. It can come from oil and gas platforms far out in the Gulf. It floats northward to Texas from Mexico and southward to Texas from Louisiana. The amount of trash that washes to the Texas shore is enormous. Sometimes sea turtles and other species that eat jellyfish, sometimes they mistake clear plastic bags or other trash in the water for food, and they eat the trash. That's because the clear plastic bag looks a lot like jellyfish. This can cause injury or death as the plastic clogs up the animal's stomach and intestines. To deal with this trash, every year over 1,000 people volunteer and pick up over 150 tons of trash on Padre Island alone. Volunteers also clean up other beaches. When you go to the beach, remember to pick up your own trash. You may also want to join others at your favorite beach on volunteer cleanup days, or just do it yourself. Sand dunes make up the beach zone behind the backshore. Sand dunes vary in height from only a few feet to up to the largest in the Gulf at 30 feet high on Padre Island. They're usually covered with grasses that help hold the sand in place. The dunes help protect areas behind the beach from wind and storms. Sandy beaches are important to the Texas economy because many people enjoy going to the beach. And there are many beach parks along the Texas coast too. All of these are great places to visit, to go fishing, go surfing. In addition, these parks help protect wildlife and aquatic life.